Well, hey everyone, welcome to my channel, welcome to another stream and yet another chapter working on this guy right there. That's the 67 Mustang Shelby GT350 by AMT. Well, let's run that intro please, and we'll get started right away, okay? Okay guys, we are back, and we're going to be doing some custom stuff today. Okay, you guys already know we finished the engine, or we got most of it done, and last time we worked on our front suspension. What I actually did wind up doing is I did trim the pins off for the wheels. I literally just took my nippers and went snip and then relocated them a little bit higher up on the spindle. If you see on the camera, you can see this one here in particular, it's not quite centered here, it's a little bit high now. So that'll tuck my tires up in the wheel wells a little bit, and I think I'll be happy with it the way that looks when it's all together. Off camera, what I did is I cut these out to fit my big fat tires that I'm going to be putting on this car, to fit those in there. Okay, so cut those out. So today we're going to be doing some custom stuff. I'm going to be basically building a frame. Building the frame for the whole back half of the car here. Now this is something I've never done before, so it's going to be a little bit of a learning curve for me, and doing a little bit of experimenting and stuff like that. So how I'm going to do the frame is I've got these sheets, different evergreen styrene stuff. I've got some rods and square channel stuff. I got some little plate kind of things, different stuff like that. So for my frame, I'm going to be using 0.060 square strip. So I've already pulled one out, and that's this guy right there. Okay, this pretty much matches the size of the frame that they had in the back here that went straight down like this. That's pretty much exactly the same width stuff, so I think that'll be good. And I'll show you a picture of basically the style of frame that I plan on using, because I'm not going to be using leaf spring suspension. I'm going to be turning this into a 4-link suspension. And so what I'm going to do is, if I get the picture up here, I'll show you guys kind of what I'm looking at. Okay, so that's basically it right there. That's the kind of setup that I plan on kind of creating for this car. And yeah, so that's basically it. So that means I'm going to run a couple of strips down on the inside of these channels here and here, and we're going to do lots of cutting and lots of gluing and lots of fun stuff like that. I'm going to do a little bit of bending because the actual chassis here has got a bend in it, so I want to match the frame there. I don't want it to come off the chassis. I want it to bend, follow that bend. We'll see how we try that and see how that works out. That means I'm going to be using my little torch today. A little bit anyway. Okay, I'll change the camera and let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to start off by cutting this strip a little bit shorter so it's a little easier for me to work with. We'll do that, and I think what I want to start doing is our little piece that's going to go here and bend over that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want to cut this at roughly the same kind of angle as that, sitting like that. So instead of 90 degrees, let's try something like that, just to get that a little more flush in there. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's not going to really be seen, because we're going to have another strip going along here anyway, but I want to kind of get it tucked in there. Okay, so, and this is going to have to bend around that. So I'm going to warm it up here, and not too much, just a little bit, just to kind of convince it to bend a little bit there. Okay, now what I'm going to do, I know I don't want it longer than that, so I'm going to cut that now. There we go. So this is going to bend like this down in there. Okay, about that spot. Again, I don't want to heat it too much. just want it to conform to that a little bit. Okay, I think that's good enough. I think if I put some glue on it, it should stay. If I put glue on it, it's still a little bit more. I think I want a little bit more. You kind of have to bend it past the spot. Kind of past for it to cool. Let's try that. That's actually about the same. Anyway, I think that's all right. So what I want to do is glue that down there like that. I'm actually going to cut it. I will cut it right here because I'm going to bring a piece, I'm going to put a piece down over like this, going across, and have it meet like that. But I'll glue it down in that spot right there first. So I'll put some glue down. Put some glue on there. Like that. Lay this guy down in his home. Like that. Now I could use clamps and clamp them down. And that might be the smarter thing to do, because I don't think it's going to hold on its own like that. When I let go of this, it's going to pop back up, for guaranteed right now. Yeah, see? So let's put clamp on there. We'll use a couple of my little alligator ones. Let's get him as straight as I can. There we go. And I'm going to need one up here too, and that's going to be the challenge. I think I'm going to have to grab one of my big guys because they have the clearance to fit all the way through here. Like that. Okay, so he's glued in. We'll have to let that sit now that I've done that. Actually, maybe I can do this way. There we go. Okay, and that will allow me to do one for this side while that's gluing. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing here. Kind of get this angle a little bit like this, and just kind of line that up. See, that's close enough, I think. Okay, and it's going to sit like this and go about there, so let's cut that off right about there. Yeehaw. Okay, so let's put a bend in this guy. I think I did too much heat. And as nice as it is that it wants to bend like that, it's too much heat and we can really distort it, and I don't want to do that. And see, now it's not bent in the right spot. So we're going to re-bend this. I'm going to get her bent in the proper spot. So you can see I've got it bent way too far up. To bend her down. And now we've actually got a kink in it. This piece is kind of useless now. Let's try another piece. I put too much heat and it kind of ruined it. It's about that long, right? Okay. Before it cools off too much. It's kind of funny how it almost instinctively wants to bend away from the heat. That is pretty close. It's not going to take too much pressure to get that to conform there. See like that? Just a little bit. See the gap there now? You can tighten that up. So let's put some glue down on this side. Going up there. Put him down in his spot here. Grab my other little alligator clip to hold that, like that, and I'll grab another one of those. Put them down in that spot there. Now it's not quite straight, so let's move him. Let's get that straightened. There. Don't do that. Straighten out. Stay straight. I think I'm just going to have to hold it. Let's see how this other one does. If I let this one go, let's see. I think it's going to hold. Pretty good. Maybe not quite. Let's just keep that on there just for safekeeping. He did let up. It let up there. But that's okay. This one, I just want to keep him in this proper angle so that he's not crooked. It just wants to move over. Stop moving over like that, dummy. Just stay there. Not sure why this one wants to keep doing this to me. There we go. Okay, now he's in. This one I'm going to have to put a little bit of glue down right on the tip there. But what I need to do is trim it off. So I think all I need is to just get a little bit of glue right there, right at that spot, and then push that down. So I need just a little bit, and I don't want too much. I don't want to use my extra thin because it will run and glue this whole channel, but I want to trim this channel off. The reason why I'm keeping it longer is so that I can clamp it down into that curved position. Right? That's really what I need to do, and that's why I'm doing this. But I just need to add a little bit of glue right there. So I'm going to use my thicker stuff, and I'll just kind of put it right at the edge in there, and then put my clamp back down. There we go. I'm going to let that sit for a couple of minutes. Okay, we'll let that sit for a minute or 5. And meanwhile, I can do a section that's going to go across here, like that. I can cut that one. So I want this to be 90 degrees. So the nice thing about this stuff, if you're like me and you struggle cutting these at 90-degree angles, you can just kind of hide it. So this one, when I'm looking at this, it kind of is on an angle like this. I'll take that angle and I'll turn it up so that it's sitting like this, but when you put it down, you can't tell, right? And I'm going to have another piece going straight across, so who cares, right? So that's the nice thing about that. So I'm going to take a little Sharpie here and put this here, right like that, and right like that. Actually, what I want to do, now that's the actual edge of the plastic, the maximum length, but I'm going to run a channel, I'm going to run a piece straight along here, okay? So I can go like this, and that'll be fine. Let's try and get 90 degrees on that. It looks pretty close. Okay. And so that's going to go in right there. And now I realize, see, I don't have it exactly like that. So I can decide then, you have to make the decision whether you're going to have the rods going on the outside of it like this, or you're going to match it up like this. Right? You get your choice, whether you're going to have it glue in on this side or on this side. Right? So if I have it like this, I need to trim this a little shorter. Exactly this much width, right? It might be a little bit easier to leave it like this and have them butt up against that side. Right? It's not really going to matter very much. I mean, we're not dealing with actual metal and welding and stuff like that, right? It's just to give a bit of an appearance of this stuff being put together. So I'm going to put a little glue on the bottom of this guy. And then I'm going to drop him in along that back channel right there. Now if I need to do any adjustments, I can cut that and I can trim. There we go. So he's in his new home. Just like that. The other thing I'm going to have to do is I'll have to figure out with my differential how much I have to trim, depending on how deep it goes into these wheels, right? I'll have to do some measuring on that, and I can get an idea. It kind of is right there. That's the depth of the wheel, right? Whoops. And that's basically going to be in the middle there like this. And so if that's the wheel's going to be actually back here, which means this part needs to be right there. And so that tells me it's actually this much. Basically, this much now has to be trimmed back to here. So that's where I'm going to have to make my cut. Cut this and cut this, and then glue that onto there. And that's going to be my rough estimate of my wheels. Now this particular kit, they don't have any pin that goes through the axle like some kits do. There's no rods that go through it. And that's fine. So let's see how we're holding up here. Let's take this off. Still wants to stand up. This might be the kind of thing that you just leave for an hour and let the glue cure properly, because you just have to, right? But in the meantime, I can cut a little piece that needs to go in there like this. Okay, so we'll do that. I'll take my Sharpie again. And we're going to put it here. I'm actually going to put it so it goes across fully, like this. And I'll draw a little line, like that. You guys who watch my channel, you know this is the first time I've done something like this. I don't normally do this fabricating stuff. And so what I need to do now is trim this piece off. Right here, right at the edge. Like that. So that I can put this piece down. Not in there, but right here. Like that. Okay, let's get glue. And that'll also allow me to get some glue underneath that. Let's put this guy down. Just like that. And with that done, I'm going to put my clamp back down. And there we go. So that I'm going to have to hold for a while, because when I let the clamp go, I don't want that to come back up right in there, right? I want to keep that flush and flat. In the meantime, we can take a look at this side and see how it's holding. This one's holding okay, but it's not perfect. So I'm going to do the same thing and trim this one off. Right at the line there. Okay. And we'll see this piece that we cut off on the other side. How does this one measure up? I might not have to cut one. That one's almost perfect. Just need to straighten that out a little bit. I think that's actually pretty good. Just like that. Why not, right? Let's use it. If you can get away with not cutting one, why not, right? Put that down in its spot, and we'll put the clamp back down. There we go. Okay. So, I think actually I'm gonna have to wait now. And I'm gonna have to let that glue cure. I'm gonna have to let that dry, because that's just the nature of the game, right? Let's take a look at our instructions and see if there's something else I could do while we're letting this dry. So let's put this off to the side and we'll have a look. Okay. So let's just take a look. We have our engine pretty much done. We do have a fan to put on the front of it, but that's okay. maybe what I'll do is I'll do some wiring on the engine. That's another custom thing that we can do. I can do that. I do wiring for the spark plugs. Okay, which means we're going to need a whole different glue, which is fine. And we're going to use some wires. Okay, so wires. I have this stuff here. Okay, we have that, and I have a distributor somewhere around here. Now this is not the kit distributor. This is not even the distributor that comes with that 427 engine that I showed you guys in the first episode. This distributor is a 3D printed MSD. It's an MSD distributor with a vacuum advance on it. Yeah, it's special. I'll change the camera, you can get a little bit better look at it. Okay. This guy here. Oops, where are we? Where are we? Where are we? Here we are. Okay. If it'll focus, there we go. Yeah, it's pre-drilled. If it'll focus, come on. Pre-drilled distributor. So we've got the holes in the tops of the distributor for your wires. Doesn't really want to focus, doesn't want to stay focused. And we also have a little vacuum advance on the front of it. If it'll focus, stay focused, right there. Vacuum advance on the front of it. All right. So that's going to allow us to take the wires and stick them in a hole and wire it up. Now on the sides of the heads, I've already drilled holes for our spark plug wires. 1, 2, 3, 4 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll take the longest length, since the distributor sits on this side of the engine block. The longest wire is going to be the number 4 cylinder. And I don't know for sure on Ford big blocks, but on their small blocks, your cylinders are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I don't know if Ford does the same on the big blocks or not. I'm not that familiar. So I'm going to take one wire and just do this and say that's our longest length. I'm going to run it all the way to the other side of the valve cover. Okay, this is the longest length we need. So I'm going to trim one off. Bing. Okay, that's the longest length I need, longest wire. So I'm going to do 7 more of those. Okay, let's just pull this out of here. So it's kind of wrapped up. Got it wrapped up nice and neat for us. Let's undo this. There we go. Okay. I'm going to need maybe about that much. Now if you trim it longer, that's quite alright. I know it goes to about there. It's a lot better to have too much wire than to not have enough. There's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. Now I'm also going to have one for the coil. The coil on this engine sits right here, and it's very close, so I'm only going to need a short one here for the coil. The coil, of course, goes right in the very center of the distributor cap, right? So I'll do a short one for the coil. Maybe, yeah, not very long at all. We'll start with that. That's a good one for the coil. So I'll just kind of tidy this back up a little bit here. put him back in his little baggie. You can get this wire in multiple colors: blue, red, yellow, black, I think even gray, whatever you like. I happen to have some red stuff here too, as long as a black one also. Yeah, different companies, different online guys offer this stuff. So this is not just a yellow wire, it actually has a metal wire on the inside. So this actually is real wire. It's just extremely small gauge. This is like maybe 22 gauge or even 24. It's really tiny. So that little bit of section that I've trimmed off there, that's going to go in the hole of our distributor cap. Pick a hole and just put it in there. And that's what we're going to do right now. Okay? But I'm going to trim all of these. So I'm just going to kind of use my thumbnail to strip a little bit of that wire away, that yellow wire away. Like that. And now I've got a little bit of a wire sticking out. I'm going to put them all in the same direction so I know which side I've done. The holes I drilled in the heads are big enough that the whole wire will fit through there. Just like that. Right? And that's why the extra length is fine, because I can run that all the way into the block. Look how far that goes. That's how far it goes in. Watch how much I pull out there. That's how far I can go, right into the bottom of the oil pan, I think. Something like that, because I just drilled all the way through. Drilled right nice and deep in there. So I got all kinds of length measurement I can adjust, whatever I need. So anyway, like I said, I'm just going to put my thumbnail and just pull some of that yellow off of there. We'll get them all ready. This is how I do my wires. This particular kit, I want to take my time on it and do a nice job. Unlike some of my other kits where I do kind of rush through and want to get it done, this one I want to take my time. This one for our coil, I'm going to do that. Okay, now for the coil, I actually am going to have to do that because I've drilled out the top of the coil also, but I don't have it that thick. So I got to do it like this. Onto the coil. I think I might do the coil first and run it into the distributor after. I'm not quite decided yet how I want to do that one, because it's going to have to go. If I put the distributor in here, let's see. The coil one is a little bit tricky. I want to get a more of a precise depth on it. There's how the distributor is going to go. And so the coil wire is going to go there. Get in there. It's going to go like that, and then come up and over like this. See, that's a little too long, so I think something like that. So cut maybe here. So maybe cut that length off. Right about there, I think should be good for the coil. And then I can strip off that part. There we go. Okay, so we need some CA glue. I need to change my glasses. And actually what I need to do first, before I put anything in there, I need to paint the distributor cap. Because once you have all the wires there, it is a nightmare to try and paint. So, it's an MSD. MSD distributor caps are always red. So, we're going to put a little bit of red paint, XF7 Tamiya. Or sorry, X7. It's a glossy paint. Glossy red. So let's just grab an alligator clip here. Like so. And paint them up. We can always touch up the paint again after, as needed. But the main thing is to get the top. We got to get the red in the top there. We can touch up the sides later if we need to, but the main thing is the top. Okay. There we go. All right. Of course, MSD distributors are always billet aluminum, so that'll be aluminum on the bottom part and the shaft and everything, but we can do that later. We'll worry about that later. I'll clean up my brush here. We got our first day of snow here for the winter. It's funny, we waited, our winter decided to wait until February before giving us any snow. So we got our first day of snow here today. Fun stuff. Okay, need some CA glue. So I'm gonna get my professional little thing. Now this stuff, my CA glue is really thick. So I think I'm gonna have to just pour it out of the bottle into here. Have to wait for it. It's gone. This stuff is supposed to be thin, but it's also really old, so it's gone thick on me. It's about time I head down to the hobby store and buy myself another one. It's almost empty and it's gone really thick, but I'm stubborn and I don't want to go to the store because it still works, it still does the job. Okay, so we'll start with our first one. Start with our coil wire, dip it in there and put him in the middle. Just like that. Okay, there's one. And we got 8 more to go. And we're just going to go around the distributor. Dip it in there. And in you go. I don't want to, you see when it fell over like that, I didn't like that. I want to have it sticking straight up out of there. And of course, because the glue has gotten thick, it doesn't dry as fast as it used to. It takes a minute now. And well, although that's all right, see now my wire's curved. It's okay if it takes a minute, but when you're moving these parts around and stuff like that, there we go. I'm going to use another alligator clip to hold this one straight up. Like that. Another thing you could use is if you've got one of those X-Acto third hands or whatever they call them, they usually use for soldering. Of course, my eyes are not what they used to be, and so seeing the next hole is a little bit of a challenge. There we go. Okay. Next one. Next one. Sometimes you can use another wire to hold up the one you're putting on. That's what I was trying to do. Why are you flinging around? Okay, next. This does take a certain amount of patience, as if you're like me, sometimes your wires are bending on you and you don't want them to bend. You just want them to go in their hole and stay there. You might have to reapply some glue if you're like me with this particular glue. If you don't quite get enough on the end, you might have to add some glue. Which might actually be a not bad idea to actually put a little dab of glue on there, so that when I put this in there, it's not only relying on the glue on the little pin in the hole, but actually on the top also. One more. And there he is. Is he? Now he is. This one doesn't seem to be going in as deep. But that's okay. There we go. There's all our wires sticking out of our distributor. Now, like I mentioned before, this glue, my glue is really thick and takes a little bit of time to dry. But I have my accelerator here. I can just do a little dab on there to help speed up the process. It's still, even with the accelerator, with the thickness of this glue, it's going to take a minute, right? So we're going to let that do its thing. And in fact, I'm going to add a little bit to a couple of these, just to make sure they stay. Because sometimes when you start bending them and putting them in place, the tiny little amount of glue you have on them might let go. It might let them go. Okay, so that is that. And again, we play the waiting game, and we have to let that dry. I'm still letting my frame work dry on the back. But that's pretty much it. Once you get the distributor in there, I'll show you guys how I wire it all down and put all the wires into the heads. But that's pretty straightforward, really. The tricky part is, of course, getting them in the distributor itself. But these 3D printed distributors, you can get them from Iceman Productions. That's this guy here, or Iceman Collections. Iceman Collections. Look for those. Look for his website. You guys go on his website. You see all kinds of stuff. There's also Ron Coons. He's got a Facebook page that he takes, and also a a website, I believe. He's got his own website. You can order stuff from him. He does tires and stuff like this too. That's what my tires in the bags are. These are from Ron Coons. He does a lot of stuff for like circle track racing, but you know, that a lot of the stuff like tires and distributors and things like that, valve cover breathers, things like that, he's got those too. So yeah, it all crosses over. You can use that stuff. Doesn't matter if it's circle track or if it's drag racing, whatever. But yeah, check those guys out, because you get some really cool stuff from those guys. Iceman Collections, he's probably, I suspect he's been around a little bit longer, and so he's got a bigger collection of stuff. Lots of different engines, all kinds of different engines you can get from him. Anyway, I gotta let this dry, and there's not much really I can do until it's dried. So that's where I'm going to leave it for today, guys. So I want to thank you again for watching, and please leave a comment down below and hit that like button and hit subscribe over there. You know where all the buttons are, right? And thanks for the comments, guys. Thanks for all the support. You guys are really awesome. And so yeah, I'm going to leave this for now, and we'll see you all in the next one.